great Odin's raven.
This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy.
This is ridiculous. Okay, I'll go.
Hello, and welcome to the FilmPulse.net podcast, episode number 54. My name is Adam. Today I'm joined by Kevin. How are you, Kevin?
I'm doing all right.
Doing all right? All right. Cool. This week we'll be taking a look into the genius that was Stanley Kubrick in our review of Room 237. We have a new Kickstart Sunday project to highlight. This week it's Cowboys and Engines, and we'll be interviewing the film's director, Bryn Pryor. We'll be making our weekly movie predictions, and finally we'll be going over this week's DVD and Blu-ray releases. First, let's kick things off with some of what we've been watching. Kevin, we'll start off with you this week.
Oh, starting with me. Here we go. The first thing I watched was the debut feature-length from Roman Polanski, Knife in the Water from 1962. I was pretty excited for this because he's so great with the claustrophobic settings and the psychological torment and all that stuff. And it takes place on a sailboat. A young couple picks up a hitchhiker, and essentially the entire film is whose dick is bigger contest between the two men. And that's it. And it's just over and over and over again. And to be quite honest, boring and repetitive and dull. Just, it was, a decent idea, but he gets a pass. It was his first film. There were some things in it that you could see, the beginning stages of. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious to know, like, if I saw this in 1962, what I would have thought. Like, what I would have been sitting there thinking, like, oh, this guy's, you got to look out for Roman Polanski. Or would I have thought, oh, this guy sucks.
I don't know.
I don't either. But I wouldn't recommend it, only if you're extremely into Roman Polanski.
I can't help but love the poster.
Yeah, the poster on Letterboxd is awful. It is so terrible. I then followed this up with finishing Star Wars.
Oh boy.
Finished it. Return of the Jedi. What a journey. But it's finally come to a close. And I say yes, it is over. I still do not count the next three. I'm done. This is good. Star Wars wise.
Now, wait, will you see the new one?
I don't know. Depends on how they look and what they're about. Again, Star Wars started off great. A lot of excitement, action, so much fun, And then the Ewoks show up, and it just nosedives and turns into just ridiculous bullshit. Fucking boring as all hell. They just completely ruined it. They sort of make up for it in the end, because the end it ends on a high note. Mm-hmm. Except that they immediately crushed that by having the fireworks and like the dancing and the shitty music, and I gotta see teddy bears dance again. But
here's what I want to say real quick. As a kid, though, imagine you're like, I don't know, 5 when you see this, when you see Star Wars. Wouldn't you think that Jedi would be your favorite? 5-year-old Kevin sees Star Wars.
Maybe.
Because I think that's how it was for a lot of people. Because I loved Return of the Jedi when I was younger, but then when I got older, I don't mind the Ewoks too much. It's just they spent entirely too much time with them. The fact that you have C-3PO, it's like story time. They're all sitting around a campfire, and he's recounting the first 2 films to him. Mm-hmm. And like the Ewoks are snuggling up with Han Solo and stuff. I'm just like, come on, are you serious? It just seemed like the whole bulk of the movie was like them reminiscing and pat themselves on the back, like, yeah, the first 2 were really good. They were solid films. Let's just talk about how great they were.
And the only other thing that I don't understand, um, Darth Vader, okay? So he's supposed to be like a strong Jedi, strong with the Dark Force. And the Emperor is supposed to be like the strongest of them all, right?
Yeah.
So the Emperor's hitting him with the Raiden shit for like hitting Luke with the Raiden stuff for, I don't know, minutes on end. And of course, Luke's just sitting there going like, Father, help me. It's just ridiculous. And then Vader picks up Emperor. Just picks him up. You know, he's supposed to be this unbelievable, strongest Jedi, whatever. Just picks him up like he's a piece of furniture and throws him over the banister. He gets hit with the Raiden stuff for, what, like 5 seconds? And that kills him? Are you serious? While Luke is getting it like nonstop?
Well,
it's so anticlimactic. It's just like pick him up like he's a fucking floor lamp and just toss him over.
Yeah, that's what happened.
It was sad. It was sad. It's so disappointed. And I hate Ewoks. Just hate them.
Yeah, I don't really like him, but I don't have a big problem with him.
Then I watched 2 short films, one by Godard, another one by Eric Romer. All the Boys Are Called Patrick, which is by Jean-Luc Godard, and A Modern Coed. Modern Coed's essentially just like a documentary short about co-eds in France. I mean, nothing special. All the Boys Are Called Patrick is essentially 2 female roommates that bump into the same guy minutes apart, and he uses essentially the same tactics to pick up both of them, and then they both go home and they're talking about how they fell in love and they're going to meet this guy later, and then they find out, of course, at the end. But while they're sitting at a cafe having drinks, there's a guy reading a newspaper in the background, and the newspaper's headline says, French cinema is dying under the weight of false legends. Godard does not like previous French filmmakers at all. So I thought that was, it's like a little ribbon there, a little shot at him. But still, it was decent. I mean, you can just read that somewhere, and you already know that if you watch enough Godard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like his first French New Wave film, really. It's only like 13 minutes long or something. Don't really recommend it. Then I watched Nothing But a Man, which is apparently a African-American cinema gem. And I was disappointed that it played, there was a 35 millimeter print that played at the Charles a couple weeks back, but I missed it because I happened to work. So I got to see it on shitty DVD. This is a great movie. It's like, it has to be one of the most important black films to exist. And it's sad that it doesn't have like a proper release. I'm sort of surprised that this isn't on Criterion, because it deserves to be. And one of the great things about this, which I don't know if you're a fan of Yaphet Kotto.
Sure.
Are you a fan?
Yeah. Alien?
Early Yaphet Kotto. Well, I make it sound like he's 5 years old in this. He's not 5 years. He's like 20-some years old. But he does a decent job. This is a great movie. Highly recommend it. See it if you can.
Nothing But a Man, 1964.
Yes, by Michael Romer. Great film. And then I finally got to watch Side Effects.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm bummed out that we didn't get to discuss it last week.
Yep.
This is a great film.
We'll have to do some spoiler discussion off the air.
Yeah, this was great. And to be quite honest, I had no idea what this was about. I never watched any of the trailers for Side Effects except for like a minute before we went to the movie theater. And it starts out one way and then completely shifts and just twists and turns at all the right places. Every scene, every shot is important. There's nothing superfluous about anything in this film. It was good to see Jude Law in a good role. And also Rooney Mara she's a damn good actress, I have to say.
You know, she got her start in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, she's come a long way. She's come a long way. Got to give her that. One little side note to this, it was a very bizarre experience because seeing it in my small town, the first trailer I see is Harmony Korine's Spring Breakers, which that in and of itself is to see a Harmony Korine trailer in the movie theater, very bizarre. But the fact that it was followed by Tyler Perry's, whatever his new film is called.
Yeah, I saw that trailer in my screening too. I know exactly the one that you're talking about.
I just thought it was the most bizarre, wonderful thing I've ever seen. I loved it. Tyler Perry's Temptation.
Yeah. Oh, God, that looks so bad.
I love that he has to have his name in the title. Like, it's not called Temptation. It's called Tyler Perry's Temptation.
Well, I'm sure that's because it sells better with his name on it. I'm sure that's why they do it. Just like Guillermo del Toro. Just throw his name on it.
Yeah.
Sell more tickets.
But back to side effects, the beautiful cinematography. And I love the fact that Soderbergh does his own cinematography.
To me, it was like Soderbergh's version of a Hitchcock movie.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just beautiful to watch. The color scheme, everything about it.
Yeah.
His framing, everything was it was fantastic. I hope he's not retired.
I same here.
But again, I can see, he's supposed to be retiring to focus on painting. And you could sort of see it in that film.
Yeah, I could see it. I would be surprised if he didn't come back at some point. He might take a couple years off.
Yeah.
He deserves it. I mean, he's been cranking them out last many, many years, actually.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all I got.
I had a pretty decent week here. I started off with Brandon Cronenberg's Antiviral. I loved this movie. It was everything. I mean, it was very, very similar to a David Cronenberg movie, his father. And it was like a throwback to the older Cronenberg stuff. Because, David Cronenberg has kind of gotten away from his signature themes that he always has in his movie, like body image themes and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost as if his son was like, you know what, I'm gonna pick up the mantle and go full force in. This movie looks amazing. The story is really, really compelling. I mean, it's all about how in the near future we become so obsessed with celebrities and celebrity culture that we actually buy the illnesses that celebrities get and have them injected into us so that we can share the same viruses and things.
It sounds crazy, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy movie. It's weird. It's got a lot of weird imagery. It's an awesome thriller. I just can't say enough about it.
I'm extremely excited to see this.
It was really good. We'll probably talk about it more after you see it. Right. One movie that I know you're not going to see was the next one on my list here is Girls Against Boys.
Girls Against Boys.
This is kind of, one of these purposely made exploitation films, and it's horrible in every way. I hated it. It was completely pointless. It was so dumb. I mean, it was a revenge story about these girls that have been in some way or another wronged by men, and they basically just go on a killing spree against every guy that crosses their path. And it's stupid.
It sounds awful.
It's so dumb. Like the end, there's like a twist at the end, and it's really dumb. It's just a terrible movie. Probably one of the worst movies I've seen so far this year. Then I followed that up with Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry from 1974. This was actually...
I love the title.
Yeah. This is actually my Grindhouse Weekly feature this week, and it stars Susan George and Peter Fonda. And it's basically kind of a kid-friendly... Not kid-friendly, but...
It's a kids movie.
It is rated PG, but I think by today's standards, it would be PG-13.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like Vanishing Point. It's almost exactly like Vanishing Point. The whole premise is Peter Fonda and Adam Rourke are these... Peter Fonda is a race car driver. Adam Rourke is his mechanic. They hatch this scheme to rob a grocery store in order to get money to buy a new car. Susan George plays this kind of slutty girl that has a one-night stand with Peter Fonda and then ends up tagging along while they try to evade the police after robbing this grocery store. And nearly the whole movie is the chase. It was actually really fun to watch. The dialogue is by far the best part. The banter between the three characters was amazing. Like, it felt very real, but it was really snappy, really fast, and really good. I mean, there was a lot of like really great one-liners and jabs that they would always be taking at each other, and it was just a fun movie. But it is very similar to Vanishing Point.
Mm.
Even the end, which is like a huge spoiler for those of you that have seen Vanishing Point. The end is pretty much the same. Then I saw The Last Movie by Dennis Hopper. This was directed by Dennis Hopper, and you got to see this movie if you haven't, Kevin. It is such an odd thing. Like, you don't really even know what you're watching. You're just like, what is this? It's basically about a film crew that goes to Peru, and they are shooting this Western movie down in Peru, and the film wraps, and Dennis Hopper stays there and just decides to live there, and he shacks up with this prostitute and just parties pretty much all the time. But then what happens is the villagers, and this is like semi-autobiographical apparently, and the villagers apparently can't differentiate between what's real and what's like movie magic.
Oh,
so they start like reenacting all the things that happened in the movie, but they're like, when they do, like, say there's a fight scene, they really fight, like they really punch each other, and Dennis Hopper's like continuously trying to tell them that what they did was not real and all this stuff. And it's an interesting idea. From what you're telling me and from what I'm reading, it sounds very interesting. Yeah, and it's like part documentary too, which is even more strange. Like, some of the things are real that are happening in it. The way that it's edited is really odd too. It's just a weird movie. It's kind of like a drug trip movie.
Yes. From Dennis Hopper?
Yeah. No. Let me tell you, Dennis Hopper, man, back then he was crazy. And as a companion piece for this movie is the next movie I saw, which is called The American Dreamer. This came out in the same year as the last movie, and basically this is a documentary about Dennis Hopper and his life during that time. And it's after the documentary takes place after he wrapped the last movie, and it was during the editing process. And it's such a crazy documentary too. It's basically just a lot of voiceovers of Dennis Hopper kind of giving his life philosophy and shooting guns out in the desert and having orgies. And I was surprised at how graphic this movie was. I mean, like, they show Dennis Hopper performing oral sex on a woman. It's crazy.
Wow. How about that?
So if you want to learn more about Dennis Hopper and how insane he was back in the day and how just wild his life was, you can check out The American Dreamer. It's actually free on YouTube. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's a pretty shitty copy, but it was the only one I could find anywhere. So, yeah. And then I saw Ilsa, She Wolf of the SS.
Yes. All right. I'm with you.
This is considered kind of a cult classic. I was actually watching this for next week's Grindhouse Weekly feature. I don't know if I'm going to write about this yet or not. This movie,
yeah, you are. No, you're going to do it.
Okay.
You're going to watch the trilogy.
I actually kind of skimmed through the trilogy in preparation for writing the article. I didn't watch all three of them. I don't think that I'd be able to stomach watching all three of them. These movies are so bad. Like,
come on, Harem Keeper of the Oil Sheiks?
Yeah.
You kidding me?
It's not like they're poorly made. I mean, they're competently made. It's just that I'm not into this. I'm not into torture porn films. Like I'm never. I mean, I guess the Hostel movies were okay, but I'm generally not into movies that involve torture, especially like sexual torture. And there's a lot of really horrible things that happen in this movie. I mean, this came out in 1975, and it's intensely graphic. I mean, this is borderline softcore porn. Basically, it's just about this woman who's a leader of... she's a warden at a concentration camp that focuses on doing experiments on the female prisoners. And it's like exploitation at its worst. It's just there's no redeeming qualities. It's not fun. It's just horrible in every way. Graphic. It's disturbing. It's bloody. It's violent. It's hard to recommend. She does piss on somebody's face though.
So that's 2 weeks in a row now.
I know it's the good thing about in Ilsa is that they don't actually show it. Like you can just hear it. So at least I didn't have to witness it going on to the guy's face.
So the first week you saw it, second week you heard it. Next week you're going to taste it.
Oh. Oh man.
Or smell it. Maybe there's that John Waters odorama.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Which one was that he did? Was it polyester that had the odorama, or was it?
I think it was polyester. Which again, that they showed a new print of that at the Charles.
Oh,
and I missed it.
I didn't. Polyester was almost too much for me. I mean, I guess nothing can be worse than pink flamingos, but. And then I ended off the week with a Korean film called The Thieves, and I loved this movie as well. I'm a sucker for heist movies, and I'm also a huge fan of Asian cinema, so this was pretty much everything that I wanted in a movie. It was light, it was fun, had a lot of comedy in it, but at the same time, there was some really awesome action. A lot of wire work was done, and by wire work, I don't mean like wire fu, where it's like invisible wires. I mean like scaling buildings and zip lining and that type of thing. And which was really cool. Looked awesome. Basically, it was like an Asian version of an Ocean's movie. Had a huge cast, and the whole premise was very similar to an Ocean's film. You had a group of master thieves from Korea meet up with a group of master thieves from China, and they have to team up in order to rob this casino, specifically this woman that's in this casino of this $30 million diamond that she has. And there's so many twists and turns that happen throughout this movie. Like, they're constantly double-crossing each other, and it was so much fun. I highly recommend it.
All right.
I mean, if you like the Ocean's movies, you should definitely like this. I can see how some people might have an issue with it being so similar, but it didn't bother me at all because like the action was so much better than in any Ocean's movie. I mean, there was like martial arts and fighting and stuff, and it was just a fun ride. Highly recommend it. It's called The Thieves. It's by director Dong-hoon Choi. Probably pronouncing that wrong.
No, you nailed it. That was perfect.
And it was interesting because it was kind of like a Korean-Chinese collaboration. Part of the movie was in Korean, some of it was in Chinese, some of it was in English. I like it when they do that in movies and mix it up. And It was awesome. That's it. That's it.
All right, there we go.
All right, well, let's just jump right in to our Kickstart Sunday feature. This week, we're going to be talking with director Bryn Pryor on his film Cowboys and Engines. This is a short film set in a steampunk world. So we had a chance to sit down with Bryn, have a chat about the movie, so let's give that a listen. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background, maybe how you got into film?
I started making movies when I was about 9 years old, was I think my first stop motion movie, which was Star Wars action figures fighting it out in a little cantina set, which was tough because Star Wars action figures didn't bend. So,
right.
Yeah, they had like 4 joints, so that made it a little tough. But I went to film school in Arizona and ended up making a bunch of shorts that are very embarrassing. That every year or two, I'll pick something new and do like some crazy overblown version of it on DVD or Blu-ray and send it off to all the people who worked on it 20 years ago, and it's just ever more embarrassing. And then when I got out to LA, I actually went to work for Roger Corman at Concord Studios, which was, quality was like Job 7. It was kind of like Ford at the same time. And I actually directed 4 really horrible movies for Roger. They were 4-day features where things would happen, like I had Mickey Rourke as my lead in one movie, and I had him for 1 day. He was my lead. He was my main actor. And he showed up 2 hours late and walked in, and the first words out of his mouth were, "When's lunch?" Like, okay, this is going to be an awesome movie. And then because of some internal politics at Corman, just before he ended up selling Concord, I got canned from Concord. I was young and I was emotionally fragile, and I just kind of climbed in a hole for 2 years. And by the time I came out, there was no way to capitalize on anything I'd done there because, Roger never lost a penny. And so when he sold Concord, he sold all the credits to everything. So other than the fact that there's a couple of those movies that I'm in just because like actors didn't show up, like there's one that I play a district attorney in because the guy who was supposed to do it just didn't show up that day and nobody knew where he was. I'm like, okay, let me go get my suit. Other than that, I think one of them now I'm listed back on as the director on IMDb, which is a shame because it's a terrible movie. There's like 3 directors on it because the company that bought it, it's called The Coroner now. When I shot it was called Cloak of Madness. That's the other thing is there's 2 of them. I don't even know what they're called. I'm sure they're out there, but I don't know what they ended up being called. I have no idea. One, when I shot it, it was called, I don't even remember what it was called. Now it's called Double Cross 2. I don't know what Double Cross was. So apparently I directed the sequel to something that I'd never seen. I don't know how that works. But anyway, and I had contacts through some publishing work that I'd done in the adult industry, and I ran stores in Arizona. So I ended up directing porn for years just because it was very similar to working at Concord. It's like, look, we're not making art, we're making widgets. Get it done. Boom, boom, boom. And so, I've made a couple of other runs at trying to do something that I care about. I directed a feature film called Poker, which, I always tell people if they ask my advice, I would do this, so don't do that. Because I have a history of making the worst decisions in the world. We were trying to figure out when we made Poker, we said, okay, we have enough money to make one movie. We can either make some TNA slasher movie, which I had distribution contacts for. Like I can get this thing sold and released, no problem. And we can make 2 or 3 of these, we can make some money, and then we can make something that we care about. Or we can make art. Well, guess which way we went. So I have this great little art movie that also through my own hubris, we shot on 35 millimeter. And then had I shot on 16, the movie would be done. It would have been sold somewhere. It would have been released. Shot on 35. There's no way that I never had the money to finish. We took work in progress, cut to IFP East, and won. I think it's almost like the dog show. I think they call it Best in Show. So we got Best in Show at IFP East, and we showed it at the Angel City Film Festival and got Best New Film at the Angel City Film Festival, and then nothing ever happened with it because there's no one in it that anybody's heard of. And it's a great little movie about people sitting around talking for 90 minutes, and nobody wants to see that. So, so Cowboys and Engines is shot 3 at trying to do something that I actually, really care about, and trying to listen to other people when they go, okay, this is stupid. All right, fine, then we won't do that. So that's my history, and it's sad, and it's mine, and I'll own it. So.
Very nice, very nice. Let's talk about Cowboys and Engines. First, I wanted to ask the whole steampunk thing. Maybe we can talk about that, because I think that there's probably a lot of people that don't really know what steampunk is, or maybe what the draw of steampunk is. So maybe we can talk about that in general first.
Sure.
Before getting into the movie.
Steampunk is one of those things that's very hard to define, in that it's kind of like jazz, which is, if you don't know what it is, you just don't know what it is. How I always describe it to people is it's mixing genres largely with a Victorian flair. And so what it is, it's science fiction set before its time. So it's Victorian era science fiction. And the best analog that we have is of course Jules Verne and H.G. Wells, what they were writing at the time, science fiction for their time. And if you wanted to get to the moon in those days, how did you do it? Well, H.G. Wells did it in a giant iron sphere that they threw to the moon with a magnet, because that was what they could imagine. Okay, well, that was kind of the invention of steampunk, or things like that. So it's taking ideas that were ahead of their time and then setting them in technology that you could believe worked at that time. So ours is set in 1876, and I'm shooting the movie as a Western. But that being said, there are rockets, and there's a girl that rides a mechanical horse, and there are a lot of airships. There's zeppelins, there's dirigibles that have largely taken the place of what the railroads actually did in the real Old West, because of the heavy lifting abilities, and it's cheap and all of that, those economics of scale. And what that allows you to do, what I think the appeal of steampunk is it's a way to take something and make it fresh. For a lot of people, it's simply the aesthetics, because of course what the Victorians did better than anybody was beautiful craftsmanship. Everything was gorgeous. It didn't matter what it was or what it did, or if it was practical, it was beautifully made. Oftentimes it was a lot chunkier and more ornate than it needed to be. And so that has sort of given rise to this steampunk aesthetic that according to Forbes, is going to be all the rage in fashion this year. So I guess we're right at the head of the curve, which is nice. But so what steampunk is, in essence, is it's Victorian science fiction, and then everything has sort of an interesting kind of chunky look to it, which anybody who's ever been to Comic-Con has seen the guys from, there's a group in California called League of Steam that is a big steampunk group. And you'll see these guys with these amazing, there's a group of Victorian era Ghostbusters guys, the guys from Ghostbusters. They have their huge oak and brass proton accelerators on their backs. And they have, and that stuff is all gorgeous. That's not the movie that I'm making, because the minute you see these guys wearing this stuff, you realize, wow, that really doesn't work in the real world. So that's why I'm approaching it as just a Western, is I want to strip a lot of the kind of extraneous crap off of it and make it believable, because I like the aesthetic and I like the idea of the aesthetic, but I also have to be able to believe that it works. And if I look at something and think, yeah, that's just not practical, then it's not going to happen. So, it's my version of steampunk is going to be a little more stripped down, I think, than if you just go to the internet and you Google steampunk, you're going to see you're going to find some guy who has goggles and huge face whiskers and a vest, and probably everything has just weird abstract gears and clocks for no reason. And I'm not doing that. Like, we're not decorating clothing by sewing gears onto them, just because I don't believe that been decoration at the time. It's like, it would be like sewing circuit boards onto your clothing now. Well, I think probably Jean-Paul Gaultier tried that 15 years ago, but it didn't really fly. You just wouldn't believe that somebody's going to go walking around with something that's so ubiquitous as a piece of decoration on their clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just not going to work. I don't know if I answered your question because I got distracted, but I do that. Shiny thing. Oh.
I think that covers.
Yeah, I think I have a little bit more insight into what steampunk is.
Yeah, because really, all I knew was that it was people that dressed up in Victorian era things and had crazy like clockwork gadgets and stuff.
Yeah,
right.
that's the only things that I ever thought of was Jules Verne and Jean-Pierre Jeunet.
Well, and to an extent, that's right. And I mean, that's sort of that's the root of it. But I don't think that like everything else in any kind of genre fiction, I don't think that it has to be that rigidly defined. I think that I mean, I hope that steampunk fans will like this, and I'm pretty sure that they will. But the fact of the matter is that I'm picking the movie that I want to see. So, if I'm happy with it, then at the end of the day, okay, great. And if they're not, then they can tell me that it sucks, and I'll be fine with that. It's okay.
Let's talk a little bit more about the movie itself. So this is going to be a short film, is that correct?
Yeah.
And maybe tell us a little bit about the story and the cast.
The story follows Cade Ballard, who is a former ambassador from the nation of Texas. In my 1876, there are actually 5 nations occupying North America. And the Civil War has been going on for almost 20 years. And Cade has left Texas because he actually saved Lincoln from being assassinated. And as a result, he has become kind of a worldwide celebrity, but has also, in a sense, become a man without a country, because while Texas was not at war with the United States, they're not friendly with the United States, and it was hard for people back home to understand why he would have done that when this was the leader of tacitly an enemy government. So Cade just really is sort of a man who's at the end of his tether. And he's played by Jeff Kanata from the Totally Rad Show, who just is amazing in the part.
Big fan.
And Cade ends up meeting this woman, Guinevere Wheeler, played by Libby Letlow, who Gwen's been a lot of things in life. She's been, she's a card cheat and a con artist, and probably been in more than a few gunfights, and definitely been in more than a few fistfights, and she's kind of the charming rogue of the thing, which I like. You don't normally get that in your female characters, and he meets Guinevere, and these are two people who believe that they've probably seen everything they're going to see. And it's not necessarily a romantic connection, but each one of them meets someone who they genuinely find sort of unique and interesting for the first time in a long time. And as a result, Guinevere almost feels bad about taking advantage of Cade and stealing his horse and leaving him in the middle of the desert. But they end up following each other and getting embroiled with Professor Timian, who's played by Walter Koenig from Star Trek, who has created a machine that I kind of want to be vague about, because it's sort of the MacGuffin of the piece. It's not a time machine. It is called the temporal engine, and obviously it does something with time, but it's not a time machine. But he has created this machine, which is now in the hands of a man named Dr. Clay, who you could describe as the villain of the piece. I don't really like to think in terms of heroes and villains, because I think it's just kind of tired. And I also don't believe that there is such a thing. I think if you approach a character like that, you're going to end up with somebody two-dimensional. You're going to end up with the guy from Die Hard 3, who's like a cartoon character. I always like to approach characters as, what do they want and what are they doing to get it? And what Clay wants is to unify North America. The war is taking a horrible toll on most of the nations, and he believes that just as Napoleon did 60 years earlier in France, that he can unify these 5 nations. So he thinks of himself as a conqueror. He thinks of himself as a modern-day Alexander. And he has gotten his hands on this machine that has this amazing destructive potential and has a plan for using it to be able to basically to conquer North America. Unfortunately, he needs to destroy San Francisco to do it. So they're kind of interested in stopping him from doing that. And hilarity ensues. No. So they end up chasing him across North America, and they end up in San Francisco trying to stop him from destroying the city.
Well, it sounds like that's a lot of material to fit into a short film.
It's a little bit much. Here's the thing: what we're doing is actually it's a trick. It's smoke and mirrors. I realized that the best way to approach a short is not necessarily one unified narrative. So what the short actually is, we're going to get 3 cuts out of it. And the reason for that is that it's designed to be a piece for film festivals. For the first year after we finish, unless somebody donates on Kickstarter, gets the Blu-ray or the DVD, you're not going to be able to find this online. We're not going to shoot it in June. And then on July 1st, it's available online for everybody to go see the various versions. It's only going to be in film festivals for that first year. And there are some festivals that will only take shorts that are 10 or 15 minutes. And for them, the opening scene of the piece basically works as its own encapsulated story, which is when, and it's actually the first scene from the movie, from the full feature script, which is when Guinevere and Cade meet. The longer version, which is for festivals that will take shorts up to half an hour, which is what we call the festival cut, is that first opening scene and then a selection of scenes from the full feature script that basically give you the full arc of the movie, which is how we managed to get all of that in. There, obviously, you're not going to get a lot of the connective tissue, although there are a couple of the scenes that are strictly there to be character bits that are really great, that give you sort of some insight into the characters, but they also give you a little bit of the story. So that longer version, it gives you the sense and the flavor of what the whole story would be, but obviously we're not trying to cram 2 hours of narrative into a half-hour movie, because that's just going to suck. So
that sounds like an interesting way to do it.
Yeah, and I hope it'll work. I haven't really seen anything done like this. I have to say that, I think we're I hate to say breaking new ground, because I think everything in film in some sense has been done. It's such an old medium, but I haven't seen it. My head might be completely up my ass, and it might be the worst idea ever, but I don't know. We're hopeful. We'll know when we get an editing, and by then it will be too late. So
yeah. Well, why don't we talk about some of the incentives on this project?
Yeah. We have some great stuff up on Kickstarter. We have some stuff that is also, incredibly bizarre. Like if you're a huge fan of my producer James Dean, who of course is, according to IMDb, is one of the 800 most famous people in the movie business right now, which I kind of find frightening because I've known him for years. So if you desperately want a date with James Dean, you can go to Kickstarter, you can get a date with James Dean, and 3 women have. So,
wow,
up $2,000 a piece for a date with James Dean. So, God bless him. There are actually speaking parts available in the movie, which those are, if you go to our website, which is Cowboys and Engines, the movie. Or the easy way for people to find it, by the way, I always tell people, is just Google Cowboys and Engines. Doesn't matter how you spell it, doesn't matter what you say. You'll come up with one of 2 things first, which is either our Kickstarter or our website. But the actual pages for those scenes are on our website. And then for people who don't want to spend thousands of dollars, and certainly we don't expect you to, you can get a bunch of stuff. There's a model of one of the rockets from the movie. There are packages that have, posters and scripts and a book that I'm actually writing about the alternate history of this 1876, because I keep getting all of these questions about, well, why did this and why did this? And, when I started coming up with the story, I'm so anal retentive. I couldn't just say, well, this is 1876 and this is how it is. I had to figure out everything got to be where it is. And I actually I went backwards through. I have the timetables of history books that have all of the major events from each year, and I went back through those and figured out, okay, this wouldn't have happened here. This would have happened sooner. This wouldn't have been done by this person. This would have been done by this person. And I ended up in the 12th century is where our timeline starts to diverge, when two very key pieces of technology come to the West from China a few decades sooner than they actually did, specifically the blast furnace and the sailor's compass. Arrived in the West about 20 years earlier because a particular storm didn't destroy a particular ship that brought those into the West. So I'm a lunatic when it comes to this. But so there's a book that basically details this stuff. I actually, and I did that because I've actually been getting a lot of questions about that. And I have people who are really excited about this book. I'm like, fuck, really? I was kind of hoping nobody would buy it. I was really we're going to put nobody's going to want this. I've got so many freaking questions about the book. So, because I have writing it, but like, man, really? I have to write this like 60, 80 page thing about the history of this world? Yes, you do, because people want it. So, because we're just trying to come up with stuff that people haven't done. This week, we're going to start actually offering stuff that's only going to be for people who have already donated, if they want to add on to their existing donation. And those are going to be things like we have 3 different still photographers who are going to be working throughout the production and on the course of the movie, and obviously doing press kits and EPK and all of that stuff. And so what we're going to do is everybody who's already donated, we're going to give them the chance that if they want to bump up X amount, that everybody's going to get a unique signed print from the movie. So in other words, it's not going to be everybody gets the same picture signed. It's going to be everyone gets an 8x10 that nobody else has, because nobody else is going to have it printed, of something that happened during production of the movie, or one of the publicity stills signed by everybody. And that'll be their own unique print that no one else will have that print.
That's cool.
I'm going to do things like I got to talk to everybody in the cast. I'm pretty sure Richard Hatch will do it. I don't know that Walter Koenig will do it, because he kind of hates like being on the phone. I'm sure that Jeff will do it. I know that James Dean will do it. And God, if anybody wants it, I would do it, or Libby would do it, or anybody. But I'm going to throw up a thing that we'll do your voice note reading.
Mm-hmm.
Pick James Dean will do your voice. And God help you if you let Tim do it, because it's going to be obnoxious. Your mom is going to call, "Who's that horrible man on your phone?" You can tell him what you wanted to say, but he's going to say whatever he wants.
I think I might do that and give it as a gift to Kevin.
Wouldn't that be odd? Hey,
no one calls me, so it would be wasted.
But so, stuff like that, that's just kind of fun, is going to be going up this week. And then we're finally going to offer, because people have been after for a while, and I wanted to wait until we got closer to the end, credit in the movie. People want to see their name in the movie. And I didn't want, just because, I just think it looks crappy. I didn't want 1,000 people at the end under special thanks. It's like, really?
Yeah.
It's bad. So we're only going to offer that to people who've already donated, who got on board early, and then it's going to be for a very limited time. It's going to be like, okay, for the next 48 hours, add in money, and you get in the special thanks. And we'll see what happens. Maybe he goes, we don't care. Right. I don't care. So.
All right. Well, let's see. You're looking for 100,000 total for the project. You're currently at 49,364, and you have 20 days to go. So, I think you have a chance. You have a good chance here.
What normally happens with Kickstarter, and this is my first one, but we were at a thing this week that we had 8 different people who've all done successful Kickstarters, and everyone says that really in your last 5 days, it just that's when everybody comes in to donate.
Yep.
And then that being said, that number is actually 59, because there's another 10,000 that's being put in by one of my executive producers over the next few days. We're waiting because we're waiting to make a huge casting announcement this week. And once we do that, then he's going to put in that money, because it's all politics.
Right.
It's ridiculous. So there's so it's actually, we're closer to 60. So I think we're actually doing real good.
Yeah, I think that you're well on your way. Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to check in with us and tell us about the project.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Bryn, for taking the time to talk with us. You can find out more about Cowboys and Engines by visiting our site at filmpulse.net. We should have the Kickstart Sunday article still on the homepage. If not, just go to the blog section under Kickstart Sunday. There will also be a widget on the side of the site there that has all the information. And just Google Cowboys and Engines, like he said, for more. We also were able to go to a table read for the film, and that article should also be on the site. All right, let's go ahead and kick off our review of Room 237. This is a documentary directed by Rodney Asher, and IMDb says a subjective documentary that explores the numerous theories about the hidden meanings within Stanley Kubrick's film The Shining. I guess I'll start it off. I don't know. Not starting it off well. I liked some elements of this movie. I did feel like the documentary on a technical level was kind of amateurish, and there were some elements of it that I really liked, but then some parts of it it didn't gel with me, and the theories that some of the people talk about, I had serious issues with.
What? You didn't think that they were plausible?
No. All right. So there's been a lot of kind of conspiracy theories behind The Shining. This has been going on. People have been discussing this for years and years. And while I do believe that there were some things that they explored in the movie that did seem odd, I will admit that. Like there were some things where it was like, that's just too weird to just be a continuity error, or there certain elements, but a lot of it I thought people were reaching.
Oh yeah. There's definitely some grasping at straws.
Yeah. Now, what I took away from the movie is there seemed to be kind of three main theories behind it. One was that it was symbolic of World War II. One was that it was symbolic of the genocide of Native Americans. And one was that we faked the moon landing. And to me, the one that made the most sense was the moon landing.
I mean, I can slightly believe it. Now, the way I look at it is, if we did indeed fake the moon landing, I think that it's probably not as nefarious as people think. I would say that we were probably on the moon. They just didn't really have means of footage, and so they just faked it.
And that's the theory. That's the theory. I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy that is in the movie that discusses that in Room 237, he's also the creator of the film Kubrick's Odyssey, that gets into more detail about that theory. Okay. And that one seems the most plausible to me. It seems to make the most sense. Like all the hidden imagery and stuff that's in the movie, I could see that pointing to that more than some of the random things that some of the other people point out.
Yeah, that's Jay Wadner.
Yes, that guy.
The most plausible to me would be the Native American Bill Blakemore's take on the film. But also, I mean, I can see where everyone's coming from. I can see where Bill Blakemore's coming from, Jeffrey Cox, Jay Wadmore. The only two people that I don't see where they're coming from is Julie Kearns.
Yeah. Minotaur.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a person skiing. Like, that was a real reach to be like, it's a Minotaur.
Yeah, I didn't see that at all.
And now we know Kubrick. Kubrick's the type of director that almost everything has a hidden meaning, and he puts a lot of thought into his films. So they can easily be read into. And if you think about it, if you're going to have a maze in it, of course he's probably going to, allude to minotaurs and stuff like that. But I mean, to base like that's your entire reading of the film. And I mean, I gotta say, Julie Kearns, it felt like she was making it up as they were going along.
Yeah.
It's like she was watching the film as they were interviewing her, and she's like, "Oh, there, that, oh, this too." And then John Felt Ryan, who, good Lord, he was the most boring talking head I have ever listened to, I think, in a documentary. He seemed like he was completely disinterested in what he was saying.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And then they come back. I think Bill Blakemore and Jeffrey Cox you can tell that they put a lot of time into their readings. They were the most, I thought, well thought out of the theories. But I would go a little bit further and just say that, maybe Jack Nicholson just represents the entire history of the white race. So you're going to get little bits and pieces of everything. Yeah. And maybe not even the white race, just the human race in general and all the atrocities that we've...
Yeah, and their theories are very similar.
Yeah.
Like both their theories are very similar, and I could agree with that.
And for me, this just reaffirms that the thing that we discussed when we had our Haneke roundtable. It all depends on what your past experiences are, what your teachings are, what you've learned over your life, your own personal philosophies that you have are going to essentially shape what you think or what you're going to take away from film. Because like Blakemore, grew up in Chicago and was around and very in tune to the whole Native American experience. So of course he's going to take that away from it. And then Jeffrey Cox, it seemed like he was a historian who focused on World War II. So of course he's going to make that correlation. You know what I mean? It all depends on who you are.
Right. And I think that, I don't think that any of the theories necessarily have to be mutually exclusive either.
No.
You know what? Like, he could be talking about the genocide of whatever people, and also be trying to give a jab at the government for, having him fake the moon landing and all that stuff. And there is more to the theories behind the moon landing that guy doesn't get into in this movie, and I think that it's just because he wants people to see his movie.
Yeah, I know,
and he
pissed me off in the film.
And he plugs his movie in this movie.
Yeah,
which I thought was terrible. And the one part when the guy has to get up and because there's like kids yelling in the background.
I enjoyed that. I mean, to get back to what you were saying on a technical level, I thought it was interesting the way that they went about the film. Instead of just showing the talking heads, their faces and them discussing, it's sort of played out through various films, with Eyes Wide Shut and using The Shining and everything like that. And I thought I liked it. It kept me more engaged.
Right, than cutting to them talking. I thought that
also
was
enjoyed
fine.
the music. I thought the music
that was one thing that I was going to mention. The music is awesome in this movie. I loved it.
Music is great, and it's done by William Houston and Jonathan Snipes.
Yeah, I loved the score of this movie.
Bravo to those guys.
I do wish that they would have shown the talking heads at least once, or maybe have something about who they are.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know who these people are, and they talk about it. Most of them mention what they do, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I would have liked to have seen them at least once.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing is that the big point of this movie is that it kind of raises awareness of that this isn't just a movie that's to be taken for face value. There's a lot going on in this movie.
You should never take a Kubrick movie at face value. Never.
And that's kind of why I like why do I keep forgetting his name?
Dude,
the moon guy.
Waitmore?
Yeah.
Waitner? I'm sorry, I said Waitmore. I mixed him and Blakemore's name together.
Yeah. Jay Weidner. The reason that I like his other films, he has 2 Kubrick's Odyssey movies that I know of, and I think he said he's working on a third one. And he goes into all of Kubrick's films. He doesn't focus on The Shining. He goes into all of them, and he links them all together and comes up with like a big theory for all of them. And that's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
like that.
The number one thing about this movie is I want to see this Shining.
I almost, I almost watched it directly after watching this. It does make you want to immediately go watch The Shining.
And it's almost to a point that you want to stop this movie and just watch The Shining. Because there was a couple of times where I was just like, you know what? I should just be watching The Shining instead of this.
Try to pick out the things yourself. But a lot of the stuff you just don't see when on a normal watch. Like some of the stuff you have to really be looking at things in the background. And now, what did you think? 2 questions. First, what did you think of the person that played the movie forwards and backwards on top of each other? What did you think of that?
I thought that was a very interesting idea, and I liked it. That was very creative.
It looked kind of crazy.
It did look crazy. But then again, you're dealing with Kubrick. This guy puts a lot of thought into what he's doing. And
do you think he'd put that much thought into it, forwards and backwards? I don't know.
I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, you can tell from the dissolves that he uses that he always has like a continuity throughout the entire film.
That was
match up.
Yeah, and that was like a big thing. Like a lot of people were looking into the dissolves.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of people do that. That's not just Kubrick. A lot of people do, dissolves and have things match up, and one shape turns into something else. So
but I think what they were exploring was like the meanings, like the Hitler mustache.
Yeah, but I mean that's another thing. If you spend so much time looking for things, you're going to find them.
Yep.
And you're going to be able to justify everything you find to yourself.
I just wish Kubrick was around to respond to this.
He wouldn't talk to you anyways.
I know.
Kubrick doesn't give a shit about anyone. But the one thing that is when the guy's going through his fake moon landing shtick, and which I thought was ridiculous. But maybe it was because he wasn't giving us the good stuff because we're supposed to watch his other film. That is what I'm guessing now. But when he's talking about like the key in the door,
moon room, and
number one, he's talking about you have the capital letters because the O and the abbreviation of number is not capitalized, which I don't know why he finds that to be so odd because that's how you abbreviate the word number. But I also love that he's like, well, it can only spell 2 words, room and moon. And I'm thinking, well, what do you just get rid of an R? It's like, it can also spell moron.
Yeah.
I wonder if he realized that and he was just like, well, I won't say that. Hopefully no one will realize that.
Because in Kubrick's Odyssey, he talks about that same theory, which is completely ridiculous.
I mean, now, it can only spell 2 words. It could spell 3.
The idea of that room representing the moon, and I can see that, but the whole key thing, I thought that how Kubrick changed it from 217 to 237 and that theory, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I'm just that. To me, it's one of those things that your initial reading is good. I'm with you, but then you keep trying to find like more evidence,
right? And that's what
slowly devolves into where you're you're reaching.
Yeah, and that's exactly how every conspiracy video is. You see any of these, like the loose change video, or even that new one that came out about Sandy Hook, all of these conspiracy theory videos, there will be some things where you're like, you know what, that is really weird. And then they'll do something and be like, moon room. And you're just like, all right.
You got me, son of a bitch.
I did think that a lot of the continuity errors were very interesting, though. Like how specifically when the kid was playing on the carpet and how they reversed it, how the next shot was he was facing a different direction,
Yeah, but I mean, you could even look at that as a just. I'm trying to think how I want to phrase this. I mean, you can just look at that as, minor head games that he's playing, since you're dealing with a character that's slowly losing his mind.
Yeah, it could be. Or it could be a genuine continuity error. There might have been something for some reason they might have just missed it, or, not been able to get the right angle or the right shot, or the lighting got messed up or something.
Or maybe even in a stroke of genius, Kubrick has put in these little continuity errors, or, where things disappear and reappear, sort of as an attempt as an own mental labyrinth of the film, where he wants you to keep looking and looking and looking, but you're not really going to find anything. That could be the case. I mean, they do say in the movie that before making this movie, he did a lot of research on subliminal messaging and that type of thing. So maybe that's the point of all of it, is that he wants you to feel that you're making a descent into madness along with the characters. Yeah, I mean, when you're stating that a room key can only spell 2 words, I think he succeeded.
I know that when I see a sticker of Dopey on a door and then don't see it anymore, I'm going crazy.
Or the disappearing chair.
The disappearing chair, and the fact that man was carrying that rug everywhere.
Yeah, that was another thing. When I think that was John Fell Ryan. That was part of his thing. When he's talking, I'm just like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
What?
He's carrying a rug. That man is carrying a rug
everywhere.
And I love I thought it was funny, the Playgirl thing.
I didn't know that.
That was interesting.
But also to come back to the whole, maybe, saying that Nicholson represents the human race or the white race or whatever it is, how they're talking about the importance of Danny retracing his steps in the labyrinth, to get away from his father. I think is maybe Kubrick saying that, you have to go back through the history to learn from it. That's the only way that you can progress.
Sounds like somebody needs to be on 237 Part 2.
That's right. I am available. Rodney Asher, right? Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Rodney Asher.
I think any way you look at it, it's an interesting movie. It's worth watching. It's a better version of the YouTube videos that you see, but I didn't think it was anything groundbreaking.
No, it's definitely not groundbreaking. It's definitely interesting, though.
Yeah. I think if you're into Kubrick and if you like The Shining, you will get a lot out of this, because it's just, even if you don't agree with the theories that they talk about, it's still kind of interesting to think about. And it's one of those things that you'll never know. So it's almost pointless, but at the same time, it's just kind of fun to
that's
theorize.
That's the part of the fun. And it's also a testament to Kubrick's ability to create great art, because to me, the art it's essentially what you do. You make something out of nothing and then leave it up to other people to turn it into something for themselves, which a decent amount of people in this documentary have spent a long time creating this film into something that means something more to them.
Right. And I guess that's the point of it all. All right. Room 237. What are you going to give that bad boy out of 10?
I give it a 6.
I think I gave I gave it a 2.5 on Letterboxd, but I would give it more than a 5. See, my ratings on Letterboxd don't coincide with my 10 out of 10 scores.
Yeah.
I don't just, divide or multiply. They're kind of they're exclusive of one another. So I would probably give it a 5.5.
I can say one thing that I really wish that I did is I wish that I watched The Shining first. Because again, I haven't seen The Shining in a long time. And when I did see it, I wasn't the smartest person. And not to say that I'm smart now, but I have a little more experience and learning under my belt. So it would have been I think it would have been more fun to come up with my own reading of the film and then watch Room 237.
Mm.
And I wish I did that before I watched this.
Yeah, me too. I wish I would have watched it.
Because now if I go back and watch it, I'm going to be looking for things that they talked about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there you have it. Room 237. I would recommend seeing it. It's interesting.
Yeah. I would recommend watch The Shining first and then watch this.
Yeah. I would recommend watching The Shining first as well. All right. Let's move on. Go over our predictions. Good day to Die Hard. You said 52. I said 56. Actual 16. Boom. Looks like I wanted it to be a good Die Hard. Apparently it was a bad day to Die Hard.
What number is that too?
That's the fifth one.
Fifth one. Awesome.
Yep. I think it's got a worse rating than the last one, which really the last one wasn't good either. So
good stuff.
I think that's it for Die Hard.
Hopefully.
I'm such a huge fan of Die Hard, especially mostly 1 and 3, but
they're trying their best to make you reverse that decision.
Yeah, it's like the last two. They're not even Die Hard movies. They're just action movies with Bruce Willis.
Yeah,
like the feel of the Die Hard movies. And I don't know if you've seen Die Hard 1 or 3 recently, but they're so good.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy Die Hard.
I watched the first one around Christmas, and I was like, this movie is so amazing. Like,
it's much fun.
It's just fantastic. But apparently the new one's not. Beautiful Creatures. You said 46. I said 42. Actual 45.
Ooh, nice.
Beautiful Creatures. And then we have Safe Haven. Yes. You said 20. I said 24. Actual 13.
Almost better than A Good Day to Die Hard. Not
almost better.
Not good.
All right. And then we have next week, Snitch with Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Oh,
what are you thinking on this bad boy?
I'm thinking 36.
36? I'm going to say 42 on Snitch. I don't know. It's probably going to be average. I'm not planning on seeing it. And then we have Dark Skies.
Let me say that this film looks ridiculous.
I thought you were going to say it looks amazing.
No, it just looks so stupid.
Dark Skies, I'm going to say 35.
I'm going to say 10.
I think you're probably going to win that. Guess we'll find out. Those are really the only two that are coming out.
That's it? That's all that's coming out?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But
so many great movies next weekend.
There's a bunch coming out in limited release, but those are the two biggies. DVD and Blu-ray releases. This is for Tuesday, February 19th, 2013. We have Anna Karenina. Oh, what do you think? Are you gonna give this a watch? Karenina. You gonna give this a watch?
I probably will.
I'm not.
Probably will.
I know because you're such a big fan of period pieces. You'll.
I am. I'm a huge fan.
Give that a watch.
Huge.
Argo. Highly recommend this if you haven't checked it out yet. Definitely see it before the Oscars because it probably will change. If you're doing an Oscar poll, it might change your.
That's right.
Your pick. I think when we did our Oscar prediction show, I think I picked Argo, and I'm sticking with that.
Sticking with it.
Sticking with Argo. Atlas Shrugged Part 2.
Thank God.
Like to call it Part 2.
About time. Finally get to see this.
I know. I'm pretty excited. Big fan of the Atlas Shrugged series.
How can you not be a big fan of Atlas Shrugged?
I didn't know anything about the movies, the books. I didn't know anything about it until the first movie came out. Knew nothing. Like, didn't even register for me. Yeah. That's how little I cared about this series.
Mm.
And the first one got panned by critics. The second one got torn to shreds by critics. So
nice.
I would probably recommend skipping that one.
Dietrich Bader is in it, though. Just to give you a heads up.
Well, that changes everything. Fun Size. Is that Nickelodeon movie about Halloween?
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, it looks pretty terrible. So skip that one. And then we have Sinister.
I'm excited for this one.
This was actually one of my top horror movies of 2012. This is the one with Ethan Hawke. I really enjoyed this movie. This was good.
Yeah, I can't wait to see this.
And we have Sushi Girl.
Oh, yeah?
This is with Candyman. I always forget his name, but I just know him as Candyman. And Mark Hamill. Looks pretty bad. Looks like another one of these Tarantino ripoffs. And Undefeated, the documentary, the football documentary. I definitely recommend that. It's a tearjerker, though. So be forewarned. It is a tearjerker. And finally, just for fun, Bath Salt Zombies.
Yes, I was hoping that you would mention this film.
Of course. How can I not mention Bath Salt Zombies? Has a great cover. Any like criterions or anything?
I have two. One Criterion and another an American independent film. It seems to be, I don't know. I've heard about this a couple of times. North Sea, Texas. It's an independent film about it's coming of age tale. I've read good things about it. I'm not sure if I'm interested yet or not. But apparently it's a teenage boy's search for love finds him fixated on the boy next door. I don't know. It's gotten good reviews, though. And the Criterion is the Marlon Brando classic On the Waterfront.
Oh, okay.
It's out on Blu-ray. The
Brando?
It has to be one of the iconic performances, I would say.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that.
Even back when I didn't know anything about film, I still knew about this performance.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's collective knowledge.
Yeah, I think so. I've never seen the movie.
I've seen parts.
It's like one of those things where even though I haven't seen it,
yeah, exactly.
I know the big iconic scenes.
So that is out on Blu-ray. So I think I might finally get around to watching On the Waterfront.
Cool. Well, I think that wraps it up. For all the latest film news and reviews, visit us at filmpulse.net. We want to hear your feedback. Send us an email, feedback@filmpulse.net, or call our voicemail line at 850-391-6071. Also, please take a minute to rate us on iTunes. We appreciate that very much. For filmpulse.net, my name is Adam.
And I am Kevin.
And we will see you on Wednesday for Ryan Watches a Movie when we have him watch Tooth Fairy.
Yes. Female Trouble was awesome. Female Trouble was awesome.